So yes, my name is Mari Granström. I'm the founder and the chief science activist at Origin by Ocean. Origin by Ocean has been a hobby of mine for a very long time. So I used to work for BASF and Stora Enso and the big corporations, and I got enough of that. But kind of like Origin by Ocean idea has been with me since 10 years. So I have a passion for oceans and waterways, and I have spent a lot of time scuba diving and surfing, and I've seen the same spots changing year after year after year. And I started to think that as I'm a chemist and I've been always working everything related to bio something, so biorefinery, biochemicals, biomaterials, biomass, maybe I could contribute to this problem in a positive way somehow. So I started to think that how to build a new type of a value chain based on environmental problem, using invasive seaweed species as a feedstock and turn those into valuable ingredients. So I'm all about ingredients. I like ingredients. We all use ingredients in our everyday lives when we are cleaning our house, we are washing ourselves and doing whatever we do when we wake up and when we go to bed. So you are surrounded by ingredients and you are surrounded by a chemical industry. So there are a lot of interesting things we can do also with these invasive species and also help the oceans while we do that. So we have a brand promise at Origin by Ocean, which is washing the oceans. So it sounds just wrong, like how do you wash the oceans? And basically I would like to tell you why we do that and how we do that. So I think we have all seen these pictures. Ocean and waterways, they should be blue. Like blue is the color of biodiversity. That means that all the waterways and all the oceans are doing well when they actually have this color of blue. And unfortunately nowadays, we don't get so much of the blue anymore. We get some shades, but we actually move into the green and more to the brown colors. And this is the reason why I got really worried. I started to see, this is sargassum seaweed from the Caribbean, so we're actually using that as a feedstock. We start to see a lot of these invasive species taking over the good guys, so to speak, the good guys of the oceans who are producing the oxygen and who are giving you the biodiversity and who are actually giving you the food we eat every day if you happen to eat fish or seafood. The other thing is that oceans are doing us a big favor. So we have to actually every day now, from now on, when you wake up in the morning, you say, thank you, oceans, because that's the reason why we have the oxygen we breathe. They absorb most of the CO2 we humans produce, and they turn that CO2 to the oxygen to us to breathe. And we should be ashamed of ourselves because we haven't done the same favor to the oceans. On the contrary, what we have done, we have polluted the oceans and the waterways, and this is the result of what we see today. 40% of the marine species are suffering from the eutrophication. So if you are from Finland and you went to school in this country, you have learned that eutrophication is one of the main problems of the Baltic Sea. The Baltic Sea is still the most polluted sea in the world, and it's suffering from the eutrophication. So we have an internal nutrient cycle happening in the Baltic Sea, and it doesn't really matter what we do on the land anymore because the eutrophication is so severe and this internal nutrient cycle is so severe that it's catalyzing itself. That's why I was interested about the sulfates, because we also have a bit of a sulfate problem, which is catalyzing the whole cyanobacteria bloom. So eutrophication is result of us again, like well done us. So I'm always kind of the person with the bad news. But the thing is that everything we do on land will end up in the oceans eventually. So all the nutrients we use to grow the food, to have different cattle feed, fish feed, whatever, all of these nitrogens and all of these phosphorus, they will end up in the ocean. And this is the cause by the eutrophication. How we see that is like that, what you see in that picture. So we start to see cyanobacteria, blue-green algae blooms, especially in Finland. We complain, yeah, we have the beautiful Baltic Sea, but we can't go swimming because there is a blue-green algae bloom taking place. Or in other parts of the world, we have massive sargassum seaweed problem. I just showed you the last clip of that. It's taking space from healthy marine ecosystem. But on top of that, it's actually stopping many people in the Caribbean region to have a normal life. So their dependency on food is actually increasing, and that means that they have to buy a lot of food and other ingredients from the US, and that's always a very bad relationship to have if you're dependent on somebody else. So there are a lot of problems happening due to this eutrophication, which we don't necessarily think every day. Well, we do at the Origin Biocean, that's why we exist. So what do we do then? We know that you can see these very healthy spots around the world where you have nice, good guys, so kelp growing and the water is blue, but many of these spots are turning into something else because of this invasive seaweed species. And this is really, really affecting our lives. So this is the picture you should all see because it's a healthy marine ecosystem, but unfortunately it's very rare to see that. At Origin Biocean, we really think that the origin of life and everything comes from the oceans. So also the climate, the weather we have, everything is controlled by the ocean. So that's why we should really pay a bit more attention how we treat the oceans. So what do we do then? So we have created the regenerative business model. And I think the regenerative business model is something that all of the corporations should start thinking about. So it's not just making more and more profit, but it's how you make the profit and what happens when you are making the profit. So are you taking the natural resources and exploiting, or are you actually taking something which is helping some sort of ecosystem, wherever that is. Also, we are part of the ecosystem, so it's not just the nature, but it's also the people. It's also the fact that can we, with this regenerative business model, to give jobs to people in areas which are rural, or in a case like in Finland, that most of the professional fishermen are gone because there is not enough fish in the Baltic Sea. So maybe they can do something else. And that's when we talk about farming good guys, so farming seaweed. So we have divided our business model in 4. So the first one, of course, when you have a biorefinery, you have a biomass. And it's very important that where the biomass comes from. And this is where we use the invasive seaweed species. So we use cyanobacteria, so blue-green algae from the Baltic Sea. And then we also use this sargassum seaweed. I showed you the picture. So we have an activities in the Caribbean where the problem is the biggest, and also in the Gulf of Mexico. Then we actually come in. So our bread and butter is actually this number 2, is the refinery, so the biorefinery. We have developed a process where we can basically squeeze as much as value as we can with this first production from the same kind of a feedstock. So it's very important that when you talk about the biorefinery, and I think when we learn about the membranes, there was already a statement like what biorefinery really is. And it also means that you produce multiple products from the same feedstock. And this is what we do. And then we, of course, have the products. So our products, we have different type of products. We have sugars. So we are not talking about sugars that you eat every day or sweeteners, but rare sugars. The sugars can be used in cosmetics, in skincare, and in other applications where you need to have a certain type of a profile of sugars with synergy effect with other components in the formulation. We have emulsifiers and stabilizers, so these are the polysaccharides. Then we have pigments. So I think the seaweeds are really, really interesting because we tend to see only like 2 or maybe sometimes 3 different colors when we look at the seaweeds. But in reality, they have all the colors of the rainbow. They are just very clever how they use the filters to show the colors we can see. But they are using that in their photosynthesis method to actually modify the light and taking and harvesting the light in different ways. But it's really, really interesting. So we are taking these pigments out. They are not just the pigments with beautiful colors, but we have stolen the idea from the nature that why do they produce these certain pigments? And then we are taking this functionality on land and utilize that, especially in the area of cosmetics and skincare. We have a lot of antioxidants. The antioxidants can also have a very beautiful color, but they are mainly not there due to the color, but due to the function again. So we have stolen a lot of ideas from these guys, and we are basically just using them as they do when we formulate the final products, being that a face cream, or being that a mist, or being that a sunscreen. Then we have the fourth box, which is the application. So in this value chain, of course, when you're B2B and you're ingredient supplier, you have to be very careful how you step into the bubble 4, because this is where the brand owners stand. So we are working together with biggest guys in Finland, so Valio and Gilda and all these amazing companies, that they actually want to develop new products based on our ingredients, or they want to substitute some of the naphtha, so the oil-based ingredients in their products. And this is what we do together. So application development of the ingredients is the biggest thing you have to do. And hence, we are also doing formulation. So we are also doing application development so that we can tell our customers that, okay, so when you take our ingredient A, you can formulate it in this particular way to have some particular functions, whatever you want to have. And I think one of the missions we have, it's really, really brave one, is actually to make the chemical industry to run on algae. We don't want to dismiss the greatness of the chemical industry using naphtha. I think the naphtha and the oil-based industry has done all the good things for us in our kind of a modern lifestyle. It has created all kind of materials and products and all that jazz. But I think now it's time to change. So if we really want to decarbonize, as everyone is saying, that Unilevers and P&Gs and big brands, that they want to decarbonize their products, then decarbonization means that you have to replace oil and naphtha-based ingredients in your products. And this is basically where we come in. So I think I wanted to show you this thing. It's not very beautiful pictures, but nevertheless, seaweed and algae is, the whole thing is so amazing how much water they withhold. And we always say that our algae is actually producing its own processed water. So we are very grateful for that as well. And that's why we don't try our feedstock when it comes in, but we use it as wet. And this is the way we can utilize the water it's been carrying within the structure for a very long time in our processes as well. So when we look at this, is Fucus vesicolosus bladderwrack from the Baltic Sea. And you can see on the left-hand side that you have it as a wet structure, and the dry weight is around 15%. It varies from 12 to 15%. So it actually contains a lot of water. And even when you want to try it, you try it really, really hard to take the water out from the structure, you don't do a great job because your dry weight is 65%. So it's normally around 60 to 70%. So it kind of shows you the reality in the nature that if you have, and that's what I was asking you, Tekla, about these hydrophobic, hydrophilic materials, that if you have structures that actually like to keep the water inside, it's very difficult to take it out. So the question is that how much energy you actually want to use in your process to dry something which is supposed to be wet. So that's why we use it as a wet material. So our products, also I think one of the key things in the biorefinery process is not just the process able to produce multiple products, but also that you have to be able to use these products in a multiple markets. And so we don't do any tailor-making thing for a certain company or for a certain application, but we really want our products to enter as many market sectors as we can. So that's why we go from textiles, which are really like heavy industrial processes, to cosmetics, of course, which is a more sophisticated way of doing formulation and functions. We don't really look at the packaging. It's not one of my favorite things, and I think we are not the right partners to even work for the packaging, but we have some partners that we look at maybe a more like coating solutions and stuff like that for the high-end products. And we are there because we want to make them better recyclable materials. Our biomass residue after the biorefinery, so in every biorefinery you always have a certain amount of biomass residue left behind, and this is normally burned for energy, but we don't do that because it still contains a lot of good stuff that other creatures can utilize, and that's why we have some happy cows in Finland, so we are feeding cows with this this biomass residue. And we also look at the fish feed. So basically the fish, they could get the nutrients from this algae residue. And just to show you, this is definitely not the beautiful slide, but I just wanted to show you that we actually have naturally functional ingredients, so we don't add any functionality into these guys, but they come out as they are, and we are promoting the functionality they have in the nature. So we have the UVA absorber, then we have the stabilizers, emulsifiers, antioxidants, and pigments. And we are very proud that it's a big thing for the startup that you trademark your products, and then you know that you have something that you actually have to think about the names of your ingredients. But yeah, thank you very much for your attention.